Hello, and welcome to the Hearts and Hands 2020 Virtual Unconference, of which I am so happy to be a part. My name is Brenda Robinson. I've been involved in the Hearts and Hands conferences since the very beginning. I usually am the MC, but this year I'm going to do a little pre-recorded message for you, and I truly hope that you enjoy it. So let's think about this. We are in an interesting era. Our virtual unconference is an example of that interesting era, and we are being asked to do things differently. And I think it's a huge challenge in today's world because we have a tendency to think that different is difficult. And I want to say to you that I think different is only difficult until we have some understanding of the difference. And post-COVID-19 is going to be very different. In fact, they're using lots of wonderful terms, and you've probably heard some of them. We're calling it the new normal, or the new ways of doing things, or moving into a new era. And I think that the word new is quite critical, but I think along with new usually comes different. And so what I'd like to suggest to you is that I think we can move into this post-COVID-19 era with some really, really positive strategies and approaches that will challenge us to see it as different. Maybe not difficult, but certainly different. And so let's think about the things that we can do or the approaches that we can use to help us move into this era successfully. I think that the very first one, and always an important one, is communication. As we move into this new era, indeed, communication is not only going to be important, it's going to be critical. We have never lived in an era where there has been so much shared information. We have never had the experience of having our leaders, our executives, our managers, our professionals, our scientists, our experts sharing information with us every day. And yet in COVID-19, that's what's been happening. That's going to change things. It's going to be different. And I believe that we're going to find that people will expect more shared information and that people will need to be willing to share more information as we move into this new era. I also think that positive communication is going to be a critical aspect. In fact, I will quote Dr. Bonnie Henry and say this to you. She says, "Nobody asked for a pandemic." And I add to that, we didn't ask for it, but we also aren't to blame for it, and so therefore we don't have to apologize for it. So let's not move into the new era with apology on our mind. And yet we're Canadians, and oh gosh, Canadians love to apologize. In fact, we've been famous for it over the years. Silly little example, but a good little example that you can relate to. So often this happens to me. I phone and I say, "Good morning, this is Brenda Robinson. Could I speak to Diane, please?" And when I get a live voice, because sometimes we get a lot of recordings, but when I get a live voice and Diane isn't there, very often they say to me, "I'm sorry, Diane's not available." Now that isn't very helpful. That isn't very positive. I now know where she isn't. And I didn't pick up the phone and think I'm phoning down there to find out where Diane's not. And so I have shared some information and asked for information, and really I have received nothing but an apology. So then I say, and maybe out of frustration, I say, "Well, where is she?" And very often I get an answer like, "I'm sorry, Diane's in a meeting." Well, being in a meeting in today's world is like being in the mail. We have no idea how long it will last, what it's about, where it is, and so I have now asked 2 questions, and I have no information. And so then I say, "Well, when will she be back?" And they say, "I'm sorry, she won't be back till Monday." So by the time I hang up, I'm sorry I called. I think it's a very sorry place to work. I don't believe they're sorry anyhow. I think they're covering for her and she's taking a long weekend. And then I start to think, boy, I wish I could get a job there. And all of a sudden, all of my thinking is in the line of negativity. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful if indeed I could call and say, "Good morning, this is Brenda Robinson. Could I speak to Diane, please?" And wouldn't it be lovely if I would get the answer? "Diane will be back first thing Monday morning. What would work best for you? Would you like to leave a message on her voicemail? Would you like to call her back on Monday? Or would you prefer to send her an email? Perhaps she'll respond quickly to an email." Gosh, by the time I got all that information, I would be so busy thinking about what I could do that I wouldn't have time to focus on what I don't like or what makes me unhappy. And I think we're going to face that as we move into post-COVID-19. We can't be apologizing for things that really aren't going to help anybody. We need to focus on, what are we going to do next? How are we going to do better? What can we do to work through this? How can we make this work for us? And I think that if we spend our time in the positive elements of communication, we will be able to bring people with us. And spending time in communication is going to require that we ask questions, that we be willing to share information, that we answer why. Gosh, there's a 3-year-old in every adult. We all want to know why. And when we're feeling that we don't have reasons for things, we often change our communication. So let's focus on communicating in positive and constructive ways. And when we're doing that, then we will build on what I see as the next 2 strategies, and that is collaboration and cooperation. Once again, I will say to you, there's never been a time when we've been asked to look after each other, when we've been asked to be kind, be considerate, stay calm. Because it's true. We're all in this together, and we will work our way through this together. But working together requires collaboration and cooperation. And because it's going to be different, I think the other thing we're going to need is we're going to need to be change skilled. And I think being change skilled isn't about just transition. It's about realizing that different can actually be an opportunity. And so I'm going to give you a little activity that I want you to do with me just to demonstrate how you too can be change skilled. Would you put your hands in the air just as you see me doing on the screen? Hold your hands in the air. And I'm going to ask you to do something that I think you're all fairly comfortable and familiar with. Would you put your hands together in the folded position? Wonderful. I'm pretty sure it feels comfortable. It feels okay. It feels normal. Now I'm going to ask you to do something different. Would you take your hands apart and move your fingers over one, and again, fold your hands together in a different order? And you know what? I think that doesn't feel so comfortable. And it feels awkward, and it feels not normal. And so we'd like to go back to the way we've always done it. But I want to show you something. It's not about what's normal or what's the usual way to do things. It really is about having 2 ways to do things. And I would like to show that to you. If you watch, you'll notice this. I can do this both ways. In fact, I've practiced enough that I no longer know which way is normal. And that's what I think COVID-19 is going to do for us. It's going to help us do things in more ways than we've always done them and be able to move ahead positively doing that. And the other strategy that I think is so important is celebration. Because as we move through this very difficult era, we are going to have to remember to celebrate success. Because if we don't celebrate success, it starts to feel worrisome and dreary. Now, having said that, I think that one of the best ways to celebrate success is with communication, collaboration, cooperation, and celebration of our change skills. However, this is what I know. As we move into challenging eras, very often we have a tendency to buckle down. We have been through many years of do more with less. And we've done it. We've stepped up to the plate and we've done our very best. I'm not sure that we can continue to do more with less, but this is what I know. We can do differently and better together. And with those strategies in mind, communicate, collaborate, cooperate, be change skilled, you will be able to celebrate success. I wish you well. I think that we are moving into an era of opportunity, and I want you to think of it as a challenge, not a chore. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy all of the presentations in your virtual unconference. Take care.